as the game. Okay, let's see. I want to continue this. So they're finally bringing down the damage in the game, right? That's what they want to do. So they want to nerf every single item in the game. So let's see what Freak has to say about this.
One of the big projects that is in flight, that is almost certainly going to ship with the Split 3 launch, is global nerfs to items. The primary goal is to make combat more readable. So this was driven initially by a consistent urge to slow down combat pacing in League of Legends.
Now, yes, you know why? Because last game, right? The fight is over in 3 seconds. LeBlanc presses W, QE. Okay, that's it, I'm done. The fight is over. Cool, right? 3 seconds a lot. So making the fights at least 10 seconds, I would like that. That was so cool, you know. I would love that so much, right?
I have spent a lot of time looking at old champions like, hey, so really how much damage did Annie do back in 2012? So here's a random note. Morgana Q's damage hasn't changed in about 14 years. I think the last time Morgana Q's damage or AP ratio changed was 2010.
Okay, but that's Morgana, right? I have a ton more new champions. And they may be power created, but I don't think champions are the problem. I think the item system in League has a major flaw. And by that I mean the biggest problem in the item system in League is the fact that you're not a champion until you buy your item. Your items mean too much. Like champions should rely more on getting levels, right? Experience to get more stats that way. But instead we just buy first item, boom. It's like we just destroy everyone. Right? It's like, you don't have wave clear on a champion, another problem. You don't have wave clear on a champion, you buy static shift, boom, problem solved, you have wave clear. Oh, you don't have a dash on Jinx? Oh, Gale Force, right? They had to remove Gale Force, why? Because it's OP. They have so many other things, like Zonia. Why the hell is Zonia thing? Guardian Angel. Why do they exist? They change everything too much, right? Instead, remove GA, remove Zonia, give Aatrox his revive back, and suddenly it's like, he has a revive, it's cool. Not everybody by buying GA, right? It's like kind of nicer. I don't know. I like it a lot more that way. I don't want to have items change my champion too much.
June of 2010. I looked at it today. So unless I'm overlooking something, Morgana Q hasn't changed in literally 14 years.
Okay.
Morgana is still a real champion who exists in current League of Legends. Now, his W has changed a lot. Granted,
sure.
You know, her R has changed around a little bit. But, like, looking at Annie, looking at you know, like any of the old mages like 2010, you know, Annie, Anivia, Morgana as 3 of the primary examples here, it's like these numbers have not changed meaningfully. They've gotten baseline way more durable. We've given champions a ton more armor and MR and health over time. Like these have all increased globally across.
Yeah, sure, right? Everybody got, especially with the durability patch, right? Everybody got more armor, MR, right? And everything, right? In HP. But the items became stronger. Items are stronger right now, right? That's how it is. Items just keep, like Infinity, 8 attack damage. A Bloodthirster, 8 attack damage. Lethality item, lethality is a thing, right? It's crazy. There's more damage in the game. Why? Because of items.
Time, I know I investigated, I mentioned this in another video a little while ago, I investigated like the total impact of like runes and master systems. Like those haven't really changed either. And in fact, with like the worlds, with worlds coming in pretty soon.
Also runes, right? Runes also matter quite a bit because now you have cut down. There's just more damage, right? It's just more damage, you know?
Watching the streams of like, here's all the old world championships over time. We also, I remember like, spent some time watching old champ spotlights just like for fun. Like someone was watching them just for funsies and I like was watching over their shoulder. And it's like, no, League has always had very fast combat. Like the thing that annoys me is the refrain that somehow we have undone the durability update, which like strictly isn't true because I have the numbers. If you want to say that League combat feels too fast, feel free.
Yeah, like I think, yeah, like I don't think the damage itself is the problem, right? The combat itself is the problem. It's just so freaking fast, man. Like everything ends too quickly. You can't play fights. Everybody plays assassins now. No more frontliners on average, right? It's a bit annoying.
That is at least an accurate statement of how you feel about League of Legends, the game. But to say that somehow we have like massively power crept damage in the game, like I have checked so many champions across years, and like so many systems and whatnot. And it's like, no, actually, for the most part, champs do the same amount of damage they used to, and their pre-game systems and summoner spells do the same amount of damage they used to as well. What's happened is our items have gotten a little bit stronger. That is true, but only a little bit.
Okay.
and players have gotten better at farming. So they have more gold, and gold.
Oh, true. Like, this is another thing. Yeah, when you think about it, like, players right now, right, are just way better. A challenger right now, it's way better than a pro player 10 years ago. It's way better, like crazy better. It's insane, right? And the challenger back then, 10 years ago, might not even make it master today. I don't know. Maybe, sure, like master, right? But no way challenger, right? Like, players became way better, for sure.
Gold trends toward damage. But those are the only actual factors that have meaningfully changed in League of Legends on net over the last 15 years.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's hard to see where the extra damage is coming from. Like, it's just a mystery, right? I don't know what's happening, but the fights end in 3 seconds, but they gotta change it, man. They gotta change it, right? Let's continue here. Let's continue.
So to say that Riot undid the durability update is false, because we never even undid champion durability. Not really. Other than items getting a little bit stronger and players getting a lot better at League of Legends. That's
True.
mostly it, actually. Anyway, though, it is worth arguing that, hey, items have gotten too good, which is indeed why I'm trying to nerf them.
Yes,
but
they're too good.
To finish my soapbox point, though, we didn't make any meaningful changes since 2022. Like, we didn't
to champion scanning and such. Yeah, I didn't make many changes, but what I noticed is that Riot, every patch, it's about items. Every split, it's about items. Introduce mythics, remove mythics. Oh, static shift back. Oh, it's too broken. Nerf. Nobody buys it anymore. Buff. Oh, it's broken. Oh, nerf. Come on, man.
Suddenly gave everyone 10% more damage, right? Because that update gave everyone 10% more health at level 1, and then another functional 10% more health through armor, MR, and health growth by the end of the game. There was no global 170 champions did 10% more damage change in the last 2 years. That strictly didn't happen. And so I urge people to try to be a bit more rational in their statements.
Okay.
And
sure, cool, but make me understand how things happen, right? And what you're gonna do to fix this, right? Then I'll just say, okay, sure, right? Damage is fine, game is fine, game is fun, right?
Root them in things like, I think combat pacing is still too fast, because I would agree with you that I think combat pacing is too fast.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I believe too, right? But that kind of makes players believe there's too much damage in the game. Because if you lower damage, combat is slower, right? Makes a lot of sense, right? So how could you blame players for that? There's no way, right?
Okay, so to move on, the goal is to make combat more readable by making things slower. Okay. Now, of course, there's plenty of things in League that haven't changed over time. The rate at which minions spawn has not ever changed really in League of Legends.
What changed, you clear minions faster, right? I play Jinx Runner to show the wave. You play Static Shift Champion to show the wave, right? Back in the day, it was Sivir. Ooh, Sivir has the best wave clear in the game. If you have Sivir in your team, you're going to have Prio the fastest. Now that is not the case anymore. Everybody wants those waves now, right?
Baseline movement speed of champions has generally not changed over time.
Has it not? Because we have more and more items with movement speed? I don't know. Maybe not.
The general stun durations in League of Legends has not really changed over time. There's a lot of things that haven't really moved, and it's kind of a good thing actually, because it means that a lot of the sort of bedrock of the game hasn't really moved around very much. But it's sort of nice. I like sort of to anchor myself back to well, what was League 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 15 years ago?
But you know what? It's I don't care what League was 10, 5, 15 years ago. I don't care. What I care about is how's the game now, and how do we make it better? I don't care. I don't want League to become old. If I had a time machine to go 10 years back in time, right, to play League and become challenger right away, because I'm just much better, I have more experience than everybody else in the world, right, and just get rank 1, I would not do it. Why? Because the game was a lot worse then. It would not be fun at all. I would hate it. I would not want it. Every new patch, I would know exactly what happens. That would be so boring for me. I would not want to be in that situation. I would quit the game. I would not play League. If I had a time machine, I would not play League of Legends. I just would not. It would be so boring for me. Sure. Okay, let's continue here. Oh, you popped. Well, whatever. I want to still continue. Yeah.
What worked, what didn't, what's really changed, what hasn't, whatever. And So that was like a thing where I was like, hey, what were things like? Because I could then go back and be like, so what did Trinity Force do back in like 2011, right? How much damage did Infinity Edge actually give back in 2013? Like,
Wait, actually. Okay, let's see this. Infinity Edge. 80 AD, 25 crit, 40 crit. Used to be 50, but they nerfed it. Okay. Let's see how much damage this dealt a long time ago. Like around here. Total cost reduced from what? It used to cost 4,000. Attack damage increased from 80. Crit chance increased to 25. Okay, cost 3.8k. 3.5, patch 7, patch 5. AD reduced from 65. Look at this. AD was 65 here. Where's crit damage? Does it show? I don't know if it shows crit damage here. Removed. I think it was 50. I think crit damage was just 50 on Infinity Edge. But let's see. Patch like season 8. New recipe BF. BF. Oh my god, I remember this time. It was way more expensive. Yeah. And they show AD amounts. Not really. Oh, this was the weird meta with Infinity. Yeah, I mean, it didn't change much. Like the item itself is kind of similar. It's like the same pretty much, right? Like whatever.
Like how much these really actually provide? Like what did Blade of the King actually do back then? What did these items actually do back then? What do these items actually do? Because I can say like, well, I actually know that we haven't made the game more lethal if the items aren't any better or whatever, right? All these things. It's like, it's worth the research task because I like knowing.
I mean, back then you didn't have all these items that just do so many things, like, I don't know, Proto Belt and stuff, right? You know, items that do too many things. It's not good. But items to be simple.
And then it's still worth being like, well, even if nothing has changed, if the game should be slower, the game should be slower. And that's fine. So anyway, let's move on. The goal is, let's make the game a little bit slower. Let's make combat more readable. The output here is that about 95% of legendary items are nerfed in some form.
Yes. That's... Yeah! Let's go. They get nerfed. Every item gets nerfed. Big. Let's go.
The very strongest items in the game are nerfed 10 to 13%.
Okay. That's a lot.
Even ones that aren't getting purchased very much are often nerfed like 3 to 5%, of which there are many, by the way, right? Like if you go look at an amalgamation of every item in League of Legends, there's a bunch of items that are bought like almost once per game across the entire game, and then a whole bunch that are bought like 1 in every 10 games, right? And it's like, well, turns out if you nerf these all by 10% and you nerf these by 5%, their power level goes down by close to 10% because it's where the items are getting purchased, right? One thing I'm actually relying on players to understand.
You know what's so interesting? It's like the way we see the game balance is different from they see the game balance. They have the data. When we say make assumptions and say this is good, this is bad, like we don't have the data. We just have the how it feels. Like we have it the how it feels. But you don't have the correct answer, right? And sure, the devs don't have the correct answer, but for sure it's like they have more knowledge because they have data to look at and win rates and such, right? But they could play the game maybe a bit more, and that would help. But even then, like, doesn't matter. The data never lies, right? And how you feel could be wrong.
By the way, is you're gonna be like, I'm playing Riven, and I don't think Riven's strong enough, and you nerfed all of Riven's items. Yes, and I also nerfed all of everyone else's items. And so I'm relying on players to understand that I'm nerfing your toys, but I'm nerfing other people's toys too.
Yeah, okay.
And that the end result should be...
That's fair. If you nerf everybody, then their life is good, right?
Combat that is more readable. So things I'm pruning out here. Basically, is asking the question, who is allowed to do what? And trying to draw stronger lines in terms of what various subclasses have access to, what they should have access to, what should be reasonable, what is not reasonable.
Like how melees shouldn't have Runan, and ranged champions shouldn't have Tiamat. And for some reason, ranged champions have Tiamat. I don't understand why. You can take Tiamat on Queen or Corki and do well with it. I don't understand why that's a thing. But Runan exists, right? But anyway, right? I think they should remove that.
Who's allowed to do what, and having stronger stances on stat allowances. So, for example, if you're a burst mage and you want to one-shot people, you can one-shot people. You can go build a bunch of ability power, or attack damage, or lethality, or flat magic pen, or whatever, and your proc effects, and you can one-shot squishies.
Okay.
But then you are not getting ability haste. You are not getting durability.
Yes.
You are not getting movement speed.
Sure.
You are not getting other things. If you want to one-shot people, you can one-shot people, and you're not getting anything else. The rest got to come from you. The rest got to come.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So you W in as Z, you ult, you do your combo, whatever, and you cannot W out because that's just stupid. For some reason, it's in the game. And if you can W out, then make sure that if I get a shield from my Lulu, Z still doesn't kill me. Right? Makes sense.
Your champion or your skill as a player. Another thing is overall a look at specifically the tank system versus other systems. So I think right now the tank item system, outside of like a very clear outlier in Warmogs, which is going to nerf next patch, I think the tank item system is actually the weakest item system currently in League of Legends.
Yeah, I feel like tanks can get melted right now, kind of, right? They just get kind of melted for the most part, unless they're ahead and such, right? But I think tanks are not really tanks anymore, right? They just cannot ignore stuff like they used to, you know? I think they need to be a bit stronger, and I think nerfing every item will do that for them, because then the base stats they have will matter a lot more, right? For sure. Okay, let's continue here.
And so my opinion here is that tank items should feel in class for melee non-assassins. Like, I know when items are like way too strong, like we've had.
So mean bruisers should be able to buy Randuin Omen to counter ADC? Sure, I guess.
Had many versions of Jack Show where it was the best item of the game, and you'd be like, I'm playing Swain or Varus or Vayne or whatever, and I'm just going to, at a certain point, I'm just going to buy Jack Show because it's just the best item of the game. And of course, if we want you to not do that, we need to make sure that your damage keeps scaling off of ability power, attack damage, whatever. But if we're okay with, say, like, Swain's allowed to build a Jack Show, this means that Swain doesn't need to have really, really strong AP scaling. He needs to have good enough bases that just leveling up and buying some tank items are worth it. But if we want to make sure that like Vayne or Varus or Yasuo are never allowed to buy a Jack Show, even if it's strong, you have to make sure that at every step of the way, they need more attack damage, they need, more ability power, they need more flat pen, more attack speed, more whatever. So for an example, this was an explicit goal with Riven when she launched, where she had a shield that scaled off of bonus AD. In fact, her entire kit was a bunch of bonus AD ratios because...
I feel like Riven is a cool design. Because you buy a ton of AD, you have a shield that scales with AD. That's kind of cool. Kai'Sa is similar, right? Kai'Sa is the shield scaling from AP. I don't know if it's AD or not. But you get bigger shield on Kai'Sa ult because you buy offensive. That's kind of cool, right?
The explicit design goal was Riven. The way you get tankier is you build more longswords and you get more CDRs. You can cast more shields and dash more often. And to this day, Riven buys a lot of longswords. And I think it was actually very successful. I think it's a good thing to say, no, Riven, you are meant to be buying very little baseline durability. Yeah, you might get a little bit of durability here. You get your Death Dance, you get your Maw, you get a Rav Hydra. Like, those are fine. Those are in class. But, like, hey, whatever.
But not Jack Show.
But for Vi and Wukong and Dr. Mundo, Mundo's actually a straight up tank, but Darius, like, and then even, like, potentially Gwen and potentially Swain and, any of these, like, non-assassin melee champions, tank items should feel at least attractive. Renekton going for something like X plus Black Cleaver plus Randuin's should feel natural. It should feel fine to be like, oh, they're running double marksman. Let's go build a Thornmail. And Thornmail should feel really good to purchase on.
I mean, that's true. I think that's a fair point. I think that's healthy for the game, yeah.
On him. Because, right, in the hierarchy of who's most durable, you have tanks, and then juggernauts, and then divers, and then skirmishers and battle mages, and then pretty much the squishy classes, right? Artillery, ADCs, casters, assassins, all those things are all on the bottom tier, but like, okay, tanks build tank items, juggernauts should frequently build tank items, and divers are next. So, and again, like, to me, like, Vi and Wukong are the, like, most typical divers here, where they have the target access, but they're not meant to literally one-shot you. These champs should all feel good about building items like Randuin's. And this means those items have to be strong enough that they at least are close to as powerful as fighter items, such that they are options for them.
Okay, but they shouldn't be as strong as fighter items, because if you buy a Randuin on J4, you shouldn't one-shot ADC, right? Okay, if you buy Randuin on Wukong, you shouldn't one-shot, right? And that's point of the game if you are same items as enemy ADC, right? You should only be allowed to one-shot if you have the same amount of items as the enemy ADC, and like you only buy offensives. But the moment you buy a defensive item, you should not be allowed to one-shot anymore. That's kind of what I believe, right? I think it makes sense.
And if we want them out of the hands of Yasuo and Riven, whatever, have to make sure that they just need a lot of longswords. And that way we can keep these classes separate and say, it's okay for Rumble to pretend he's an AP Juggernaut sometimes, because if he doesn't need AP to keep up, if he's still going to be useful late game because he leveled up 5 times, like Darius gains something like 5 base attack damage per level.
That's a lot.
All of his spells functionally care about base AD as well as bonus AD, and his passive has absurd levels. It's going to say, like, get another 140 bonus AD just by hitting level 17.
That's crazy.
He's allowed to buy Dead Man's Plate, right? And
yeah, but it shouldn't do too much damage, right? Okay, it's also true. But no, Darius is not the problem. Darius, you can kite at least, right?
Reasonable. I think that is correct for basically the second tankiest group of champs in the game. And to be fair, like, there are AP divers and AP skirmishers and AP juggernauts as well. Again, Rumble could easily be one. They need to feel like they are allowed to build this way. Mm-hmm. The items have to be good enough, and their ability to skip AP or AD in a slot when the system calls for it, when the game calls for it, needs to be allowable.
Yeah, true. Like, I think people are just afraid of tank meta, but people forget that tank meta is better than one-shot meta, you know? Because at least, you know, there's more happening. It's not fights that end in 5 seconds. You know, at least you can actually play the game. It's not just over because you misstepped once, right? Misstep as a tank, that's fine. You just will go back a bit, right? When you have more tanks and the game is slower, it's like you go in a bit and you can kind of get out when you're low HP. Now it's like you go in a bit, you're dead, or you just kill them, and there's no in between. And that sucks, because one mistake, you're dead. If you don't buy tank, even if you buy tank, one mistake, you're dead. And I think that's not good for the game.
Which means they need to have enough things like level scaling via rank ups or passives or whatever that it is allowed for them. Like, this should be correct that in a pinch, a Juggernaut can kind of tank. They can't start a fight like Malphite or Ornn can, but they can at least frontline and screw over the AAA decomp. And so that's going to be like the biggest sort of sticker shock here, right? For most classes, like, oh, what do we do to ADC items? We nerfed them because all they do is give AD, AS crit, and special effects. Well, they went down 5 to 10%. Mm-hmm. All right, well, what do assassin items do? Well, they give AD lethality and haste. Okay, well, we lowered the haste and whatever else we had to nerf. Like, they went down.
I can't wait to see the nerfs, the item changes. For next split, it's going to be so hype, so fun. It's like in 30 days.
5 to 7%. All right, what do mage items do? Well, they give AP, haste, flat pen. All right, well, we nerf one of the things by a little bit. Hey, what do fire items do? Well, they give damage and durability. And to be clear, fighters is too broad of a brush because Riven is not Darius. They have entirely different item needs. Their items almost never overlap in any way at all. That is intentional. That is correct. That is good. Skirmishers and Juggernauts do not buy the same items almost ever. These are separate item systems. And so I encourage you, when you eventually see the change list come out, and you're like, I'm playing fighters. Wait, you did this to fighter items? Keep in mind what is a skirmisher item versus what is a Juggernaut item. So I'm going to spend some more time in here because I think it's worth talking about. Broad strokes, Juggernaut items are, and this is like very broad, like this is not getting applied like with a brush to everything, is about 50% damage, 50% durability. Right? You consider tank items are 100% durability or like 90% with 10% damage. Things like Iceborne Gauntlet has a sheen effect on it, and Sunfire Cape has some damage on it and whatnot. Like, yeah, but then next to tank items is Juggernaut items, and so 50-50 is like the starting point.
50-50. Interesting. I always thought about like those items being more like 70 damage and 30 defense, but it's actually 50-50.
And then, plus or minus based on whatever you do for the item, right? It's fine. Dead Man's Play is a Juggernaut item, and it has like a sheen effect, and then it's just tank stats. And that's fine. Like, Udyr loves this item, Set likes this item, it's totally reasonable. Then we have Divers. Divers are like 3-1 or 2-1 damage to durability, roughly. And so this is like, Stridebreaker is a diver item.
Okay.
Not Dead Man's Play. Death's Dance is a diver or skirmisher item based on who you ask. Ma is a diver or skirmisher item based on who you ask, whatever. But like, like Stridebreaker, as mentioned again, the stat profile of like Black Cleaver or Chempunk Chainsword or anything like that is going to be in the middle ground where it's a little bit squishy for a Juggernaut, it's a little bit tanky for a Skirmisher, but this means that it's in the midpoint for...
What I think they're doing, they kind of want to make items fit a certain category of champions, and that's kind of it, right? Well, I don't think that's bad, right? Like, a crit ADC should buy crit, and nobody else should really use their items, right? I think that's fine. But hopefully they don't restrict it, right? Hopefully they don't 100% restrict it, because buying different items based on the situation is always like cool and fun. You don't want to remove that from the game at all. That would be bad. Aurora is just so good. Okay, let's keep watching this.
All of the fighters. Like, if we wanted to make a Skirmisher Grievous Wounds and a Juggernaut Grievous Wounds, we could, and a Skirmisher Armor Pen and a Juggernaut Armor Pen, we could, right? And that would be make more items and tune them for the class. That is not unreasonable to do, and we could like try to
honestly, I wish we had more of these special items for like anti-hit and stuff, right?
Separate out, like, here's the Juggernaut suite, here's the Skirmisher suite, and like we blow apart the shop and have more tabs there, right? Because we have like Mage generically, right? And like Nashor's Tooth is there, despite it being a Skirmisher AP item.
True.
Again, these are all things we could do if we wanted to really bloat the shop. Not in a bad way, but like increase the number of things in the shop, increase complexity. We could do all these things, but like it's worth noting that while there's a fighter tab, just acknowledge that there is skirmishers, divers, and juggernauts as a broad stroke here. And so I know what's happening is a lot of these fighter items are being made more durable and less damaging because divers are the third tankiest class in League of Legends, a game with like 12 classes. You're third of 12.
Wait,
you're going to be pretty tanky. Otherwise, the game is just death touch for everyone all the time. And if the items don't suit them, we need to make sure the kit hooks come in to say, no, you should actually feel good about getting 1/3 of your items giving you durability and having a decent amount of health or armor or MR on your things. And that's sort of the goal here. That's kind of the point here. We are going to have lower damage, more durability fighters on average. That is going to be...
That's good. Right, that's good. More durability, less damage. I like the side of that. It's good. It's great.
Result here is that fighters are not a burst class. Whether you're a skirmisher or a juggernaut, you are not a burst class. You are tanky. You are the second, third, or fourth tankiest class of champion in the game. You're going to be kind of tanky. You're going to have defenses on all your items. These are all going to give you something, unless you are completely Razor's Edge going something like Kraken Slayer. And that is a rarity, but some champs are going to be like that, right? Master Yi with a Kraken Slayer, with a Rage Blade, like, yeah, there is going to be some really squishy stuff out there, but it's like, hey, here's Blade of the Rune King. It gives you lifesteal. That is a defensive stat. Here's Terminus. It gives you armor MR. That is a defensive stat. Like, those items should be good and feel good. Wits End here as well, right? Those, these items need to be good enough that skirmishers feel good buying an item with some defense on them. And the point is that...
Okay, this is not about ADCs, but I'm going to make it about ADCs. How come there's no defensive item besides Shilbo that gives you crit? Right? There's no magic resist crit item. There's no armor crit item. Why? Right? I mean, when you think about it, it kind of makes sense, Kind of makes sense because if you get crit and damage, right, you shouldn't really get defensive because it's an offensive item, right? It's like... It's like there are some items that make sense and some items that don't make sense, and maybe having like melees get Wits End or whatever, right? Makes sense, right? But the crit ADC should be like the way I see crit ADCs are glass cannon. You'd never buy defensives, only offensive stats, rely on your range, positioning to just not die. Right? I think that's fine. I think it's a cool class. I think it's a really cool class. Right? I enjoy playing this type of champions.
If we tune all of our stuff right, you are tanky enough as a fighter to not get one-shot by Annie's burst damage. Annie can full combo Ashe. Annie cannot full combo Viego. Viego goes, nice, you have no ability haste. I'm going to kill you now. And that 25% durability for a skirmisher says, let's go, it's my turn.
Nice, actually,
that's what Ma is meant to do. And that's what's saying, hey, let's take stronger stances on stat allowances and say, yes, Annie, if you flash Tiber's Ashe, she's dying if you're not behind.
Yeah.
Viego isn't, and he's going to kill you back. And having that difference, and hopefully tuning it correctly to where that is sort of what happens here.
Like tuning it properly is the hard part. The idea itself is really good. That is really good. Right?
That is the dream that I'm working toward with these kind of systems. If you're a burst mage, you are getting less haste. You're also getting more AP and flat.
Good.
If
That's
you
good.
are a high haste mage, you're getting things like Cosmic Drive. You're getting things like Horizon Focus, which by the way going to have more haste on it.
But you
in
don't
the
want
future. You're going to have a little less ability power. You're going to have a lot more repeatability. You're going to get a lot more going on here. In some cases, you might be more durable as well. But what you're not going to be able to do is one-shot people because you're not going to have that same access to AP. You're not going to be able to one-combo somebody. If you're going to play high haste Vladimir or high haste Annie or whatever, you're going to be giving up one-shot power. If you're playing one-shot, you are giving up CC power. You're giving up utility. You're giving up repeatability because you're just not going to have that level of haste. And so trying to intentionally pull things down. And again, because everyone's getting nerfed, everyone's going to be a little pissed. LeBlanc's going to be like, what the fuck? My build lost 20 haste on it.
No, what do you mean? It's good. Like, that's what we've been, like, asking for. Everybody wants less damage in a game. Nobody's going to get pissed. What do you mean? Like, nobody's going to be mad. Everybody gets nerfed. That's good. Like, everybody nerfed. Good. Fights are longer. The game is a better spot. Right? It's cool.
Yeah. And the 80 carries lost like 30 AD and 30 attack speed.
Yeah. It's good.
Not the exact same numbers, right? But it's like, everyone's losing something, right?
It's cool. That's cool.
And that's like a key point here. Everyone's losing something, and what you're losing is intentional to strip off what your class doesn't need because you don't deserve everything. If you want something else, go make a sacrifice. Cosmic Drive or Horizon Focus is going to be a very different item from Shadow Flame because they're going to get very different stats and they're going to be very differently useful. And you're going to make the choice which one you want. Ludens and Blackfire Torch should be much more different than they are now. Where Blackfire Torch clearly says I want repeatability, and Ludens will clearly say I want to one-shot somebody, and they're going to be different.
That's good.
And the differences are going to be larger because they overlap a lot right now.
I just wonder how they're talking about like tanks, juggernauts, mages, right? How do they do the ADC differently? They just nerf everything and that's it.
So one thing I want to talk about as just some other sort of points here is intuiting item efficiency. Okay. So through a mix, so first of all, like I have soapboxed and railed against using item efficiency metrics poorly because they are often misapplied. Because these simple implementations just like aren't sufficient. So for what it's worth, when this actually goes live, I will publish like my full list of expected item efficiency.
Can't wait to
I hope
see
players will use it because I think it is actually derived well and is intuitive and good, and hopefully again.
I can't wait to make some like brain theory crafting, right? Just think about what's best after this. It's gonna be cool to see.
And people like will actually like use this and apply it like when they're going to do their item analysis in the future, whatnot. Because I've over the years have tried pretty hard to make strong like cases for how much these things are actually worth, to the point where I know how much damage you get from attack damage and ability power, which means if there was ever a mythical stat called % more damage, I've got a pretty good idea what that stat would actually cost. And if I have that, I can now look at lethality and flat pen and percent pen and say, well, what's the actual damage output of this stat in the slot you buy it against the typical target in League of Legends? And say, oh, well, of course lethality can never be exactly 1-to-1 efficient. You will either over or undershoot someone's armor MR. So lethality can never be 1% more damage per point. That will never be correct. So it has to be below 1% more damage, of course. But what is that number? It's like, well, for me, it's 2/3 that number. By the way, 1% more damage costs 60 gold. 1 lethality costs 40 gold. Why? Because it makes sense. Because it actually works.
Like when it comes to like gold cost of stats, it's like a whole complicated topic, right? Like 1 AD costs this amount of gold. How do you know that? Well, look at every other item that gives AD and make an average, basically, right? That's kind of how item efficiency, golden efficiency works. I'm pretty sure.
And then saying, okay, well, that's cute, but what does percent pen cost? Because it does really similar things, right? What does a third item Void Staff do to most champions? What does a third item, Last Whisper do to most champions? Okay, well, very similarly, all right, well, it's this much more damage. I have a strong mathematical baseline for what percent armor pen, percent magic pen are. I think it's 3,500 per 100%. I would have to double check, right? But it's like, okay, well, here's the actual number. Like, this is what it's actually worth. Going forward, we're going to math this out. And also acknowledging that, like, hey, we seem to be okay with people going Last Whisper and Void Staff every game. And so those items are going to be better. And we're going to acknowledge that, like, yep, Void Staff and Crypt Bloom and LDR are over budget.
Exactly! Yay! That's what I've been telling you guys. Like, LDR is broken. I had to nerf it, and it's still the best item in the game. It's so cool. The armor pen is insane. Percentage armor pen is crazy how good it is.
And if we don't want them to be, we can make them not, and they can be a lot harder for champions to kill tanks, and you're going to see LDR and whatnot in fewer games. For now, I'm not making the call that we should make them less common, but it's acknowledging that, like, yep, these items are definitely 5 to 10% better than other items in League of Legends. Once you are at the requisite armor MR for these stats to like do what they're supposed to do, they're clearly not good on slot 1. That's fine. But again, we have the ability to be like, oh, they shouldn't do that anymore, and then we can target them at the actual number they're supposed to be, right? But by looking at this for a long time and looking at other stats and being like, well, okay, is Sheen really worth 900 gold? Is, Energize really worth this? Is on hit damage really worth this? Like, what are the things coming through? It's like,
yeah, there are items like a Sheen, right? How do you value Sheen? Because there's no item like Sheen. Sheen is Sheen, right? How you can't really value it. It's hard. So you have to go by feel, by experience, and through experimentation and win rates and stats, right? And like attack damage, how much attack damage is worth, right?
By squinting long enough and doing enough comparisons, you can be like, well, I have a pretty good understanding of what like a burst proc effect is supposed to actually cost. You can never get to the point where you just do 2,000 burst damage from proc effects, but you can like generally, get to a point where you can understand like, oh, here's the actual throughput and how much you're really getting. And, if we look at how much people buy Ludens, how much people buy Blackfire Torch, how much people buy these other items, like you can end up building a pretty robust understanding of, like what these effects are really worth and saying, okay, well, a proc of this potency at this cadence is about this much gold, and a proc at a higher potency, it's like you can just kind of figure it out and get it there over time, and you can sort of build it out that way. And so that was sort of a way to drive on, looking at like win rate data and like player, selection metrics and whatnot. Like, what are the kinds of things that players can actually appreciate? What are the kinds of things that players seem to feel are valued correctly or not valued correctly?
Yeah, another big thing is that players have to understand this thing as well, right? This has to be intuitive, like he's saying, right? It has to make sense for players every time. Because if the players are not happy, if you have a system, an item that's good, 50% win rate, perfect item. If players are not happy with that item, the item is bad. That's it, right? So we've got to make it easy to understand.
And it's tended to work out and landing on whatever. The end result here is that the ballpark is that at a baseline, items should be about 115% gold efficient. If they're giving both damage and durability to a meaningful degree of both, it's 120%. If they are giving anti-synergistic stats, such as attack damage and ability power, where they're clearly scaling different things and the item clearly doesn't work together with itself, it's another plus 5%. Taking an extra minus 5% for completed Grievous Wounds items, because they're meant to be slot efficient, not stat efficient. And through those lenses, works out pretty well. Another thing is trying to more strongly codify that fighter resist items. So this is things like Death's Dance, Maw of Malmortius, Banshee's Veil, Zonia's Hourglass, right? These are like, this gives me offensive stat and a targeted defensive stat. If I hit a target, it gives 50 armor or 40 MR. That is mathematically equivalent to how like base stats work in League of Legends, where once you're buying this like on a mature build at slot 2 or slot 3, and I look at your base stats, 50 armor as a function of take less physical damage and 40 MR as a function of take less magic damage are nearly identical. And so I tried really hard.
It's weird how 50 armor equals 40 MR. It's so weird, right? I think it's because like physical damage is more consistent, right? You have no stop basic attacks compared to magic damage, which is you gotta wait for the cooldowns,
Hard to move non-tank items to be 50 armor or 40 MR when completed, and like 25 armor or 20 MR when small. And then for tank items, moved over and said, actually, tank items are going to be even more targeted. Tank items are going to have more armor per slot and more MR per slot, and instead, they're going to have less health per slot. What it's going to do is it's going to make tank items explicitly target an opponent. You're like, That's
interesting, right? Because now the tank items, they have armor, MR, and HP. But now tank items are going to have, maybe more armor. You target ADCs. More MR, because they have Evelynn and Syndra, right? That's cool. I like that.
Against Fiora or Riven or Kled or Kennen or Rumble, I'm going to buy a lot of armor in one slot or a lot of MR in one slot. And what this means is, well, now I have a strong incentive to buy a health item afterwards that I'm going to kind of go back and forth of buy heavy resist.
Yeah, this is basically like what they did to ADCs, right? ADC items now either give crit and attack damage, or crit and attack speed. There's no attack damage, crit and attack speed item anymore in the game, right? So on tanks, you buy an armor item, then an HP item. You don't buy armor HP. It makes a lot of sense. I like this a lot more.
Buy health. Buy heavy resist, buy health, or vice versa. But what that also does is it says, oh, you're a fighter who built health in slot 1 and health in slot 2. You've got a lot of health now. You know what you really love? 100 armor on Thornmail. Go have fun, buddy. Go get your 100 armor.
Oh my god.
No health, doesn't need it. You've already got plenty of health. You've
No health,
You got
that's
300 base health already.
That's good.
Go get your 100 armor on Thornmail. It's going to feel great for you.
Good.
And that's another way to make tank items feel very, very good for fighters, especially ones who
Honestly, yeah.
oh,
Why not?
I need to stop taking physical damage now. And by making these tanky items good, the fighters themselves are doing less damage because they have a very good item to buy that's not damage. But it also means they're going to die much more slowly, which means they're also contributing to fights being more slow and more readable. Another thing we're peeling away in a lot of cases is move speed. And we're not getting all the way here. I haven't really built out like the full matrix of exactly who is allowed to have bonus move speed.
Move speed is kind of controversial, right? Like you see ADCs should have movement speed, but if they have too much, they become Zeri, or like Jinx passive non-stop. And it's like you can't even catch up to them, they're just gonna kite you away. Like balancing movement speed is very hard. Like it sounds like a simple stat, but it's so damn difficult to balance. It's crazy. You gotta fix the client. Like first of all, it's like let me start the queue. Like all the item changes that Freak are showing here and everything, right? This is cool. But man, they gotta fix the client. The question is it me or do I feel in start I don't have attack speed with rockets? Yeah, I mean of course we don't have attack speed with rockets at the start, for sure. Don't please read my question. Let's see, sorry I missed it. Secondary absolute focus and gathering most Jinx mains all run it. Isn't it better? Especially for late game? Yeah, but if you look at my games, right? So if you look at my games, you say for late game, right? So I know I'll just take random games. 23 minutes, 27, 23, 25, 20, 16. Right? It's like, and these are flex, go solo queue only, right? My games are just not 30 minutes. Gathering Storm only becomes good at 30 minutes. And I never get those games. I never get 30-minute games, right? So it's like, I would just go and just get, early game runes, because those help me a lot more, right? 5 ads on that page, man. OPGG ads are just crazy. Like you scroll down a little bit, right, to look at your games and so on. And it's like one ad here, one at the bottom, one on the left. That's a visual one. One is loading here, one is here, one is here, one is here. Jesus, they've got to survive somehow. It's fine.
Baseline assumption here, and again, we're not getting all the way here, but it's nudges in the direction, is melee champions of all sizes are allowed move speed. Maybe less so tanks. Tanks don't need to be fast, they need to be durable.
True.
But like,
right?
if
tanks shouldn't have speed. They should be strong. Strong tank. Right?
A melee damage champion, you get to be faster, right? So Phage passive.
Yeah, so he doesn't get
move speed,
completely destroyed.
Slow resist, tenacity, right? Dead Man's Plate exists, Force of Nature exists, Swifties exist, Merc Treads exist, tenacity on Wit's End, tenacity on Sterix Gauge. Like, hey, you are allowed to withstand movement breaking and start moving again because you're a melee fighter and you're allowed to be more mobile than other champions.
Makes sense.
Or in the case of an assassin, you have a bunch of dashes, but like assassins are also allowed to move speed, both in and out of combat. Melee damage champions are given premium move speed sources, basically.
Premium?
Next in line, generally speaking, are squishy, high repeatability champions, which is generally speaking marksmen.
Okay.
Generally speaking, ADCs
okay.
also get relatively privileged access to attack speed. Or sorry, move speed.
Yeah.
But the funny thing is, attack speed actually is a tax on move speed because the more you have to sit there and start your attack and then go, the more you're standing still, which means...
Oh my god, that's so true. That's so true. Isn't that so true? Like, because if you stand still and you attack, you don't move. So it doesn't matter how much attack speed you have. You got attack. Movement speed, sorry, you got attack. But if you have more attack speed, you don't need to cast for so long. You just attack faster, you can move faster. It's crazy, actually.
by putting all the move speed effects on attack, which by the way already happened right in the last update, but by putting all the move speed stuff on attack speed items, they somewhat self-combat. And it means like if you're gonna like purely run away, okay, you can run away and you're gonna run away pretty quickly. Congratulations. But if you're gonna sit there and actually fight, you're constantly self-stunning all the time.
True.
In a way where you are just simply gonna stutter step more than other champions. Like the amount that Syndra has to move to get full DPS or stop moving is like, yeah, she stops for a quarter second to press E, stops for a quarter second to press R. And that's it. She stops for half a second once every 17 seconds. Syndra is baseline incredibly mobile.
Imagine like, you know, in Arena, in the game mode, you have an augment, chauffeur or whatever it's called. You're attached to your ally, and your ally moves, and you move where they move. So you can attack while your ally is moving you around. It's so broken. With Jinx, for example, right? It's so broken, become like a turret. You could imagine if you could just move and attack while you move on ADC. That would be insanely broken. Oh my god, it was so insane. It was broken as hell, right? So that's the limitations that ADCs have for sure. Right, for sure. Hold on, let's see.
What does Ashe have to do? Stop twice a second to auto attack you. Doesn't matter what her base move speed is. She is less mobile than Syndra, flat out,
True.
right? And so it's like this is a class where the mobility is reasonable. Another one that looks reasonable is Enchanters. Enchanters currently have some move speed items. They are mostly retaining them. What else to say here? Other than
Enchanters are fine with the move speed. I think they're allowed to. They should be allowed to move fast. I don't see a problem with that. For sure, why not? They're squishy. Give them movement speed. You know, so you can run around. They go run around after their ADC that already have movement speed anyway. Because I remember I play Jinx, I have Lulu. My Lulu saying, stop, wait for me. I'm just running away like a maniac with passive. I'm too far away from Lulu. Lulu cannot help me, right? It's so sad that happens. For sure. Man, so many good changes coming to League. This is so exciting, honestly. I want to finish watching this. This is very important.
like, yeah, enchanters are squishy. They have no solo carry potential, but they also have to go run around the like map and go ward and stuff, right? They have to go and like, you know, drop stuff in the brushes, drop waves, whatever. And it's like, they're not meant to be tanky, right? They're supposed to be meant to be squishy. And so their durability output is that they're kind of fast sometimes. And that's where I am right now.
I feel like Enchanter, for example, have a really cool way to use movement speed to their advantage, right? It's like they are not supposed to be tanky. They're supposed to move fast. So they can get before to an objective before everybody else and place vision before everybody else. If they are really good players and they recall soon to do that, right? It's so cool to give supports movement speed, honestly.
Basically of like any melee damage dealer, AD or AP, and ADCs and enchanters are the classes that get move speed. And then, yeah, I think, you know, giving supports in general more access to move speed and being like, hey, Trailblazer should be a real item. Or of course,
true, Trailblazer is so
in
cool.
Current version of League of Legends. But being like, okay, but those are the ones. Y'all get move speed. And then pulling away from everywhere else says that those champs who have the bonus move speed are no longer running into fast champions as often. And so baseline higher move speed, right? I'm playing Pantheon, I'm playing Master Yi, I'm playing Udyr. I have bonus move speed on my kit. I have, you know, dashes on my kit. I have baseline high move speed because of my base stats. Like all those things will be more rewarded if other champions don't have nearly as much access to bonus move speed everywhere else.
True, that's so true, right? Because this is something I noticed, right? As an ADC player, back in the day, 5 years ago, 7 years ago, whatever, right? Having high attack range on Jinx was what kept you alive, what made you survive and be such a strong champion and carry, right? And ADC in general, you rely on your range to stay safe, right? And if they come close towards you, you just go back a bit. But now it's like everybody has so much mobility and movement speed. Staying max range is not good enough anymore. It's just not. Cassante does 2 dashes, flash on you, you're dead. You cannot do anything. There's no counterplay. Except waiting for them to do that on your ally, then you go in. And guess what? That's not fun. It's not fun, right?
So there's a lot fewer points of move speed, or the points that have move speed are going to be lower. On average, mostly not taken away from the fighter system. Alrighty. Finally, one other kind of thing to bring up here is there are a lot of simplifications, but there are no reworks here. So one item I want to bring up is Yuntal Wild Arrows, which I think actually needs somewhat of a rework.
Yuntal, yes. Thank you. Yuntal is not in a good shape right now. It's like it doesn't fit anybody's kit. Let's be honest.
Yuntal Wild Arrows on live functionally has crit damage, right? On attack crits, deal percent AD more damage. That is functionally identical to the stat crit damage that doesn't work on spells for like Caitlyn R. And that's it. That's the only difference. It's a bleed, sure, whatever. It's still the same
whatever.
Thing. It's like, well, we shouldn't give AD carries crit damage twice. They've already got IE. So again, there is totally a...
But you could actually give ADCs crit damage twice by making Infinity Edge weaker and putting some crit damage on other items, like a Zeal item gets 10% crit damage. That would be so cool to see. And make Zeal items unique so you cannot buy more. Just an idea. It would be so cool. So it's not all the power of crit into one single item called Infinity Edge. Zeal item already has crit damage. Crit damage. I'm talking about crit damage here, not crit chance.
Redesign available for Yuntal, that is good. That is not this. This is going in and putting the amount of gold snowballing and damage in the game and comet pacing into a good state. It is not fixing items that I think have design flaws. There might be a couple of orphaned items as a result here. The goal is not to orphan them, but hey, by the way, so like Yuntal Wild Arrows is going to have flat damage on crit, so it still scales 4x based on crit chance, but it doesn't scale 8x based on crit chance and bonus AD.
Flat damage on the crit. So it doesn't matter how much attack damage you have. Because right now it's 35% of your attack damage on every crit. It's going to be flat scaling. Interesting.
So it's a little bit softer, and it can maybe feel pretty good as a slot 1 item because it's got, pretty good, efficient upfront, base stats, whatever. And yeah, the item's still going to scale, but whatever.
Interesting. Interesting.
Not much else to bring up here ultimately. I think this is sort of the overall place here. Again, the goal is make the game less lethal, make fights more readable, slow things down.
I think that's good. That's really good. I'm happy. Let's go. Like you see, like I'm telling you, like we always scale. Like the game gets better and better and better each year. Everybody says it gets worse and worse. The only thing that gets worse each year is the community. Why? Because they're freaking addicted. And their life is League of Legends. So if something does go their way,
Alrighty, another project that Live been working on.
Gripping Intention, yes.
Riot brought this up in, there was the dev check-in video from 3 days ago. There's also an article came out. These are just quotes from the article. I'm not here to leak anything in terms of what we're doing here. But basically it's like, yeah, we're updating your griefing detection, taking deliberate actions with the intent of reducing the team or a teammate's likelihood of success, right? Those are things that we do not like. It should catch obvious things. We're going to use a compound data to look at all behavior in totality. And we're going to see more updates in the near future as we start taking action. So this is
basically my 2 games ago, Jana. Taking Fountain, pressing Redemption randomly, moving around kind of FK-ish. Right now, he queued up next game. He just queued up. He's okay. No punishment. Right? Hey, they're gonna fix that. Hey, let's go. You can't soft it anymore. At least, at least a little bit. You're still gonna get away with some of it, but at least this at least, even if this is just placebo, it's gonna make people actually maybe try a bit more, which is good.
That Live was working on. So I, of course, had oversight here since I'm the design lead of Live, but this is not my project in particular, but one of our designers has been working on this. Our engineers have been working on this as we've been, designing up what these detections look like, how they work, how we're going to do stuff here. This has been a long-term ongoing project. This is one of the things I brought up, I don't know, a long time ago. And it's like, hey, we're working on some longer-term stuff you're going to hear about in a long time. This is one of these things, right? That it's not my place to bring them up. I'm not here to give any new information. But hey, I would like to give credit to the designers that I work with when I'm able to. And it's like, here's a thing that we're ready to talk about.
It's like if Riot does a good feature like this, this is a really good feature. Everybody should talk about it. This is really good. Yeah, bring attention to it. It's really good.
At least a little bit. And I'm excited because this has been a lot of hard work from some people who care a lot about League of Legends. And yay Live, right? And this is why, by the way, one, the designers are game designers, and 2, we're not the balance team. This is not a balance change. The game designer worked on this, right? I just I like trying.
It kind of is the balance change when you think about it, because if there's less griffers in the game because they get banned because they can be detected easier, on average people will want to play the game more, and on average the game time will go higher, which means late game champions like Jinx, they are going to do better. So this is balance, theoretically speaking, but not your usual kind of balance, you know?
Trying to
Kinda
help
interesting.
fix problems in like word choice, right? Because that way we can all communicate better if we can all use terminology that makes sense and lines up with reality. Such as Riot undoing the durability update is not true. If you feel like the game is too fast, that's something else. Anyway,
Okay.
hooray!
Sure.
Very glad about this. Very, very cool stuff. One thing we're also looking at here is and you had changes about this in 0.16 or 0.15 with early death timers, but this is even farther out. This is
Ooh. TP is a win more summoner, true. Lanes can be really punishing, true. The games are over in any phase, unfortunately, of the times. It's so sad.
farther out than like Swain or bounties or item systems, whatever. But we are actively investigating this space, which is summoner teleport and early laning overall. So problem one, TP is actually a bit of a lane, is actually a bit of a win more summoner.
Yeah, for
That
sure. It's
even
okay.
if your lane is not highly lethal, or you're in fact the advantaged person in your lane, it's often correct to run TP because you just push your opponent under lane, you yourself, you recall for your first base, and you're like, cool. If you don't take TP, I'm going to farm a plate, and you're going to lose two waves. And now I am even farther ahead than Ignite would have been. Also, TP is the best late game summoner because TP is really good. So TP
Yeah, I
is
feel like teleport is kind of like when you think about the side laner, right? A champion that sits in the side lane in the mid late game. They're gonna push a wave, like Queen. Oh, there you go. Queen is a good example, right? Queen just pushes a wave, and in 10 seconds she's already a Drake. Why? She's so fast with her ultimate, right? And that's really cool. She can close the gap instantly from a side lane towards a fight. It's really cool. But now because you have teleport, everybody can do it. Just like, oh, Sivir has insane wave clear. Static shift is in the game, so everybody can do it. I don't like these features that ruin the champions themselves. Like they make champions less unique. It just doesn't make sense. It's not cool. Right? It's not really cool.
is pretty overpowered. It is also a win more summoner, which feels really odd when like Ignite should be the win more summoner, right? Like if anything.
Yeah, true.
And so that's a problem that does not have an easy solution. Because there's another problem, which is that lanes can be
It's an easy solution. Remove teleport from the game. That's it. It's so easy. What do you mean? Come on, bro. Like, you remove static shift already. It was a bad item. For some reason, we decide to bring it back, but we don't talk about that, right? If something is bad, remove it. Don't rework it. Remove it if it's bad. You know? Get rid of the problem.
really, really punishing. And so the fact that teleport exists allows players to not instantly lose the game off a single death. Because that really sucks to lose the game on instant of a single death. The average League of Legends game is like 28 minutes long. And if you lost the game at minute 4,
and Challenger is 25. Yeah.
You don't want to play the next 24 minutes. But your teammates aren't behind. And they want to play a game of League of Legends. And if you could suck it up and play weak side and just like have a bad game for the 20 minutes, your team might be able to win.
Yeah. Look. Yeah, look. Right? It's gonna happen. You know? It's like in this game. We win lane very hard. Enemy Draven 1-5. Guess what? He doesn't surrender. His team carries him. Right? This game. Where is it? This game, right? I am bad in laning phase. My Senna dies as well. We get destroyed. Right? Draven gets fed. Don't worry, my teammates are winning. So we win. Right? Oh, this game. We win bot lane really, really hard. The enemy bot loses, right? They don't care. They play the game. Their win wins the game for them, right? So it's like you get rewarded for playing bad games. You know? But people don't realize that, and that's a problem. We need to make people realize that if you lose lane, it's not over yet. Don't surrender. Don't give up, right? And they add the griffer detection. They add changes to the laning phase here. TP changes as well. And suddenly, it's like maybe people are more willing to play the game, right? Because guess what? We have objective bounties. They are overpowered. Just kill bounties in general. They are overpowered. Players don't realize they lose. They died 3 times in the game. It's over. FF. I don't want to play anymore. They're embarrassed about themselves, right? How the hell can make people understand it and actually play through the game? That's the question. That's what we need to fix. The game itself is okay, right? But you know, again, if the players are not happy with something, it doesn't matter if the game is good. The game is not good if players say it's bad. Right? If players say game is bad, the game is bad. No matter how good the game is. You know, that's how it is.
a lot of players have big egos, and if they can't carry, they don't want to do it. And to be
Exactly.
fair, some of this is like a humans problem. Like, people are selfish, people are kind of bad. I wish people were going to behave better, but we also can't control players. We can
Yeah, exactly. You cannot control players. I want the Riot to change things, but they cannot control the players. Bro, like, they can't. They cannot. Like, what are you gonna do to Billy that's 20 years old, living in his mom's basement? He's freaking 150 kilograms, right? And he doesn't do anything all day besides playing League. And when he goes 0-2, I don't want to play anymore FF. Right? What are you gonna do to him? Are you gonna change him? No, we are not gonna change him. How are you gonna change that guy that doesn't even wanna change his underwear daily, right? You can't change that man. No way. No.
certainly designed the game to make them have different incentives, which, hey, by the way, is what we're doing. So broadly speaking, can we make Summoner Teleport not a win more Summoner? There's lots of things we could do. We could make the Summoner start on cooldown, so you just don't have a Summoner spell for 6 minutes. We could make the spell, you know, like, give everyone spell book and they turn Ignite into teleport at 20 minutes or whatever. Like, there's things that could work that, like,
that would be funny, I guess. Sure.
That all have flaws. And
but the easiest way to do it is to remove teleport.
But because this is the thing, we can't just delete it from the game, right?
What do you mean? What do you mean you can delete it from the game? You literally are the developers. What do you mean you can delete it? Come on, delete it. It's bad, get rid of it. That's it. If it's bad, get rid of it. Problem solved, you know? That's it.
It actually does really, really good things. Like, this is not a problem statement, but like, TP does very good things for the late game, by the way, right? TP is actually
does it? Explain. Okay, let's...
a good summoner spell for League of Legends the game. Just maybe, you know, the total output of things in lane is flawed here, that we could design around and make a better system here.
Okay, make it so you can only teleport on your side of the map, right? One thing that the player base quits if TP is removed, perhaps, right? But maybe they could balance it out a little bit better, right? I hate getting teleported behind. It's the worst thing ever. It sucks. Like, I'm doing well, I get punished because teleport exists behind me for some reason, right? Imagine if you make teleport only on your side of the map. Maybe, I don't know. I'm just saying my opinion. I'm not a game designer. But you know what I am? A very hopeful person that likes the game and really believes that at Riot there's competent people that work there. And they prove it over and over, right? And here, I'm happy because they tell us, hey, look, we are going to change teleport soon. Which makes me happy. Okay, I don't care what they do. They're going to figure it out. I believe in them, you know? That's all I can do.
Again, so the other statement, the other problem is that lanes can be really punishing, and the game can feel over very, very quickly. So, generally speaking, we would not ship a change that addresses problem 1 until all shipping changes that address problem 2. This is like a conjoined thing.
True.
We are currently working to identify what is the best version of TP for the game for our goals, and then acknowledging that this might include things like TP doesn't exist for 20 minutes or something, right? Once we lock down what this actually is in a way that we are comfortable with, where TP does not feel like a win more summoner, and it might not even require TP change, right? It could be like the way lanes play out is meaningfully different such that TP doesn't actually factor into how the lane plays out. It's a possibility here, right? But it's explore this space and solve this problem. And then once we know what the solution is, it probably requires another set of solutions, which is now let's fix this because TP is no longer solving this, right? And once we have good solutions for both these, we're going to try to ship something. Again, this is in relatively early.
I like that they're not rushing it. They're thinking about it a lot. That's good. Don't just do something fast and release it. Just think about it more. Don't add static ship back in the game, for example, because it has so many problems. But now it's like too late. We gotta keep it now in the game. Because we don't want to admit we made a mistake with static ship again.
Discovery, the most recent iterations of solutions for problem 1 have looked really promising. So I'm actually, my current optimistic outlook is that we're solving this really, really soon, and we're going to move on to this one. It's going to be something pretty cool, but we'll see. Again, this is pretty far out. So overall, what's going on right now with live design? Well, we have an eye on snowballing and combat pacing. I should actually have written TP here as well, but by changing bounty rules, the game should probably snowball less and make more sense and be more understandable. But we have a lot of control to make the game snowball more, unless we want it to. Nice. And items explicitly will make the game snowball less as well. And so more games will be close for longer because of systems like bounties being better for the losing team and items being less snowbally. and just also combat pacing being better as well due to item changes.
Good.
Additionally, giving players more early agency. Right? Again, if we can solve the TP and early lane give up state, then we can have your lane feels closer for longer.
Yeah, again, like they cannot change the players, but they can change some systems to make players kind of realize the game is not over just because they are 0-3, right?
More control over your game state, because one death doesn't entirely end the game for you. It's not just over because of first blood.
Honestly, let's think about it. The worst part about League of Legends right now, for me at least, and I'm sure for a lot of you guys, is the fact that it's like dying once or twice, right? It feels so bad, right? It's not because you're losing minions, for example, right? Sure, you're losing minions. It's because now your teammates are going to be on top of you, just spamming you and stuff, and they're just going to give up and they're going to lose hope and stuff, right? It's so bad, right? It's just so bad that dying is so punishable, right? It's like, you shouldn't get so punished if you just make a mistake here and there, right? It's crazy, it should be more forgivable, like you should be more forgiving, sorry, right? You shouldn't just lose lane because you die once and the wave is bad for you and it's over and now everybody must give up and that's it. It's so sad, But yeah, you're not going to change players, let's be honest.
And you can keep playing because, being down 0-1 against Renekton does not signal the lane is instantly over. You still can come back, you can still play, it's going to be okay. And another quick call out. This is not everything we're working on, but it's stuff that we're sharing for now. There's other stuff that's going on long-term, under the scenes.
Yeah. They did say 2025 is going to redefine the game. They did say there's going to be huge change in 2025. And this is why I'm still playing the game. I'm so excited about it. I know big things are coming to the game. Like, the game is getting better and better. It's improving. It's good.
Behind the scenes, whatever. But I want to give updates on a couple things that I talked about publicly before. An update on sort of the project that I'm working on, things I'm thinking about them. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Bye-bye.
Great video. Really good stuff. Like, the fact that Freak does this for us just gives us an hour-long video. By the way, here's the video. Just give it a like for me, please. He deserves it. He's working hard, giving us this. I don't think he gets paid for this. I mean, I guess YouTube revenue, whatever, right? But it just takes an hour to talk about this outside of his job, which is Rocky Riot. Like, this is really impressive. Like, I'm glad he's doing this. It's just so nice to see that Riot is working at things in advance to just always make sure we have stuff, new stuff in the game and things to look forward to. It's really cool. I really like it. Okay.